Hello and welcome to the Friday Wrap-Up presented by the Goxstein News Network. I am your host, Landy, and today is September 26th, 2025. And we're looking at Bitcoin here on the weekly. And, well, the weekly is playing out the downside scenario that I've been talking about, well, on Monday and then again on Wednesday after we got the 5-day close. Now, we do have another 5-day closing soon, but I started out by looking at the weekly here, or want to start out with the weekly, and show you that, there is a very high potential for a lower high on the weekly here. And, that is a reversal setup. Now, granted, the swing trend is a downtrend now, right? Or a trend reversal setup as well. We had the trend break on a swing basis down here. This is a complex high on a close. This was a closing higher low. So in this case, the swing trend, so swing higher low, swing higher high, swing lower high, is a trend reversal setup with a trend break in place on a swing basis. But this is a closing higher low. So this is going to be important to watch over the weekend if we do get a trend reversal setup on the closing high. So get a lower high on this weekly, and that's going to occur on any closes below around 114.4. That would be the area that needs to be closed above by Sunday in order for Bitcoin to prevent a closing lower high. But really what to pay attention to is this higher low structure right here with the swing lower low in place, and that's between that 108.250 and the swing low there at 107.250. The next big area of interest from a technical level is, I would say, around 104 to 106 if we do see the lows lost here, right? Because price has already then at that point would have already breached in and below this high right here, and would be going for something like the close over here. There's also some daily levels of interest along the way from some of this structure right in here as well for the closes on the weekly where we had all these swings before pulling back and then coming up and heading up to new all-time highs in particular. So anywhere below there, we're looking to the next big area in the weekly, 101 to 98.225. Now there is some intermediate areas of interest around the 102 to 103.5, but realistically, from a support and resistance point of view, you can see the 101 is where the lower second is. Wouldn't want to see closes below there. That would look pretty bad for the bear or for the bulls, and really good for the bears. Having a tough day today. Sorry, it's a Friday after all. But it'd be really bad for the bulls and good for the bears because they would get expansion at least into the next low, and then we'd potentially be looking lower if it didn't already fall lower. So this is going to be an important week to watch price action. I would be marking, on your chart, a red line right here that you don't want to see close below. I'd argue you don't want to see closes below the 108.250, but the red line for the weekly here would be 107.250. That is a technical continuation of the swing down trend, and that would be a trend break for the closing trend as well on closes below that 108. That can also close below that swing low at 107.250. So it's essentially just $1,000 range at the lows here, 107.250 to 108.250. And that's worth paying attention to on low volatility. Yeah. Don't want to see this area dropped if you're bullish. And, just like to the top side I talked about for quite some time, I'm bearish below 118. There's that level at 115.7 to 117.8. You can call it 116 to 118. Need to see closes back above there. And that's where things get more interesting for the bulls, and potentially move up to, 120, 119.5 on the weekly closes, 120 to 121 essentially for that daily to go run the highs and higher where that weekly upper second standard deviation is. Now, if we do see a close like this, we might see an ever so slight increase in BBWP. I'm leaning more towards this zeroing out again, but we'll see what this closes at. If it closes anywhere here or lower down towards that lower first, we will see that number go up. And the essentially this compression. We also have bearish divergence, like regular bearish divergence, and an ugly looking RSI here. So, but realistically, when looking at BBWP, there's a big move loading. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the move that everyone expects. Like when you see BBWP really low, it dropped down, hit the lower second, and then kind of messed around there, even got some expansion or kicked off expansion, and then ran the top side of the bands. So, it's not always a foregone conclusion that it's going to continue in an expansive trend to the downside or even to the upside if it shoots right back up and tries expansion to the upside. But with a trend break and and things more favoring the bears with a trend reversal setup and then to a trend break, we'd be favoring at least more downside. With some key areas along the way, the 104 to 106 around this weekly, with some dailies in between there. You can call it 105, right? Take the median there at 105 because there is some really good areas of interest around 105 for some closes. Anywhere below there, and then I'm looking right back to the next big area, and that's that 101 to 98,225. And bulls don't want to see that area dropped. I know that there's some targets down below there, but you're kicking off expansion if we start heading toward that area, and then dropping it would lead to further expansion. Many marking 95 on the top side here, and then right before the big drop off, and then the area that need to be beat to head back up. When we saw closes above, not just swings above to that 98, but a lot of people looking around that big area that we talked about prior, and we'll talk about more on some longer term time frames at $90,000. And that's where I would expect the basis band to really end up here shortly. There is a macro fib from the prior cycle here on the monthly that will line up with the upper first. So could it hit even below the 104 area? Look, it's an ugly monthly too. But there is a major fib right here at the 1272 at 103.5, just above 103,650 there. That is where the monthly upper first is. I expect this basis to start moving up towards that 1.168 or 16.8% level on the extensions for the basis band. It might in fact get there this month. Now, of course, there is going to be the Monday session. Monday session is the 29th, where I will cover what to expect and look for when it comes to the close of the monthly and quarterly next week. But essentially, this is the final full week. Big old sell-off coming into this week is not exactly crazy, but not something that the bulls want to see. Structure looks ready to break, to be quite honest, and even momentum pointing to the downside. But if it hangs on to the supports locally here, it looks fine. Even if it does dip and swing below and continue swing downtrend, it's really about the closes right here. Let's go ahead and actually, I was going to turn on something interesting there, but we'll save it for next week. Let's go ahead and actually just do this. Get rid of all this. Turn on the daily support and resistance zones of interest. We've got Bitcoin right on that 109 level, right? So this is that weekly 109 to 112, right? So the defined weekly high to the close there at 109, and Bitcoin closing right on it, and then finding resistance at the dailies from the high-sided structure before the breakout. So we need to see, as my voice kind of turns into RFK Jr.'s voice over here. I don't know what's going on with me. But if we do see, Bitcoin trading back above around 111, look back to the top side here, above 111.5, even on the daily, start looking to that 112 again. Need to see a reclaim, clean close open right on it. Clean close opens right on that 109. So realistically, even in shorter term timeframes, need to see for the daily to trade back above that 112 and then take out 114 by the daily basis band, work its way up towards that 114.4. If we are going to look at that anytime over the weekend, then we can look up to that 114.750 to that 116 essentially. That makes things interesting, but again, this has been really strong overhead resistance. Need to see closes above there at that 118 to go and test further up. Take out that 118.650 in lower term time frames, but realistically closes above there on longer time frames. Going to start to target that 120 to 121 above there. Obviously the highs. So look, if this area does fall apart, even going in before like I do the next recording on Monday. Right, so essentially everybody's got a weekend to watch this and see what my thoughts are. You see the daily lower second is right there at 109 now. If it is dropped, next big area of interest locally is that higher low close on the weekly, which is at 108.250, and that swing of those candles at 107.250. If that area doesn't hold up again, like we saw on the daily down here, which was this daily consolidation structure over here before taking off to new all-time highs. We also got a weekly right there. So big daily level that pushed price up. We even sat on the weekly to go and make the new, the next new all-time high near 125 at 124.5. If this area is dropped, daily level of interest is around 105, 106. And the weekly is between that 104 and 106 as well. So with the daily smack in the middle of that, 105 is a good call in that area. On closes below 107.250, maybe even in lower term time frames. And then you can see we had the confluent levels on the monthly with that 1272. Can we get swings there that bounce before that 101 and 98.225 big weekly down below? Absolutely. That is absolutely possible. But if we start seeing closes below this daily level right here, it's going to look more like it wants to close here, maybe get a lower term time frame bounce and then try down for that 101 to 98.225, that bigger weekly level down there. So just Bitcoin today. Monday, I'm going to talk a little bit of macro structure. Again, longer term time frames coming into the monthly and the quarterly close. I'm going to touch on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I'm going to look at Bitcoin versus gold, and I'm going to actually take a look at gold as well. It's become a hot topic. I talk about it quite a bit on some Spaces events with others that are also watching it closely, but I'd like to actually get that on video for everyone else and have that conversation here as well. I hope that you share this and you like this post. Give me feedback down below. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Keep a close eye on this setup. It looks like that 5-day setup, which actually, before I let you go, hold on. This 5-day setup is looking for continuation to the swing lows at that 107.250, by the way, on any closes in the next 24 hours below. It's 111.5. In fact, that daily level just before the weekly, it's 111 to... It's like right around 111.5. Well, I guess it's 111. You can get away with that daily level above 111, where the close open is here on the 5-day. This is looking for continuation. This is a reclaim of this structure over here, bounce off of this guy here. Yeah, it looks like it wants to go test the lows and potentially even the lower second standard deviation, again, around 105.5. So again, right in that pocket, right where that daily level is between 104 and 106 when looking at some weekly areas of interest as well, but lower seconds right there at 105. So very, very interesting area if we do see the 108, 107, 108 dropped. So this is going to close on the Saturday candle, likely going to inform what we're going to see on the Sunday candle. But yeah, anyway. And that is just a retest for a possible trend break in earnest on the weekly, where we already have one in place on the 5-day, even the 5-day, 12-hour, expansion. Could it bounce here? It could. Ain't ready yet. But again, above 111, it looks better. especially, yeah, above 111 looks a lot better and would set a low, but doesn't mean much until it shifts trend above that 114.4. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. Have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. I will be back at you on Monday here, and we're going to have a lot to discuss, especially, maybe the weekend will blunt some of this volatility increase, but this looks pretty etched right now. And coming into a weekend, bears, I'm going to caution you. If we don't see continuation, pretty much, Sunday when pre-market opens, for CME and all that, maybe a bounce, maybe. Just watch it very closely, whether you're bullish or bearish right here. It's a very important level. Have a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday.